Hey, here. Should we make a game? Oh, my voice is not 100%. So we are currently starting to build out kind of like a reinterpretation of the Spencer Mansion. This hasn't done scene switching. Hang on a second. Hang on a second. Let's fix this. Let's fix this. Let's fix this. Sorry, 1 second. Come on. Come on, we can do it. Ah! Why is this not working? Ah! Fine, I'll switch to it manually. Yes, a reinterpretation of kind of the Spencer Mansion from the first Resident Evil game as almost kind of like a Tony Hawk style level. So it means we're doing actually kind of like, bitmap polygon graphics, but also increasing the scale quite a lot so that we have the ability to kind of like skate behind things and stuff like that. So one of the I think we're kind of focusing first of all is getting all the sort of textures in, because then we can start experimenting with different layouts and seeing how they all hang together. One of the things I do want to check though is how the scaling is, because at the moment this is a bit sort of I just sort of eyeballed it. So let's actually get the dimensions of a real skateboard. So, yeah, there's quite a range, isn't there? What's this in real money? So we'll go for this one because it's roughly in the middle. So it's going to be 8 inches across. So yeah. Can I just put... there's only one. There's one axis. Okay. Once we put 8 inches, does that work? Oh my goodness, it actually works. That's actually really impressive. Yeah, for a piece of software that isn't actually really meant for doing CAD stuff, being able to just enter inches and it just works is kind of wild, actually. So there's a rough skateboard, and I'm also just going to add a camera. And yep, there we go. We'll get there eventually. Active object as camera. And I'm going to try and get an idea of how it... Oh, I got snap on. Try and get an idea of roughly how this would look kind of in engine. That's the thing that kind of really matters, Do I have this? Oh, it's got the 3D cursor. Medium point, there we go. So let's grab a screenshot of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, and let's just to try and gauge roughly where the camera is. We're not looking to exactly replicate it. So it's actually quite close. I didn't realize how close it was. I guess because they really want you to be able to see the character. So let's just make our camera here full 3. So it's going to be 320 by 240. That would have been the original PlayStation resolution. And the skateboard's quite small, so it looks like it is actually a bit further away than that. It's just the character's quite large. That looks like a near of match for the angle. Maybe slightly further away. So one of the things I want to check here is I want to make sure that the things like the texture density are about right, because if they're a bit too dense, you can get really nasty flickering and stuff. I think I might need to halve the texture resolution. Cursor to selected. I've just woken up just in case it isn't obvious. Okay, so that should give us a rough idea of how the texture density is. So if I press render, it'll open a new window. That's handy, isn't it? Where's the image editor? And results. This currently has anti-aliasing turned on, so let's turn that off. Got to find all the settings for this. They don't hide them, it's just that I can never find them. Ooh, I might actually put, I'm just going to put a note in the code that so I've got the Python script. Let's put a to-do comment in here. To do, Configure render settings. Resolution. Oops. Anti-aliasing. And might be in the performance. No, it's not in there. Oh, well. If I was going to hide a feature... Oh, actually, it's a search button up here. It's that, right? There we go. Now we've turned off anti-aliasing. So now we get an idea of like roughly how many texels there are. So we're actually really close to this floor here. So that might be a few too many. You know, we're going to get like really nasty shimmer and stuff in the distance, as there won't be any form of mapping. Stars members will be coming much later, I imagine. So let's try this at half resolution. Let's just do a real basic... Oops. Let's do a real basic kind of crunch it down. That can actually be surprisingly good with these. And then let's pull up another window down here. We can pull in the tile, reload it. It's now half the size. I think that's actually a better match to what you'd actually expect from a PlayStation 1 game. So yeah, now you got this like much more visible sort of chunky texels. So I'm just going to do that across the board. Just going to reduce them all quite a bit. It's kind of the marble that we have around the edge. So again, I'm just going to crunch it down half size. And we can do the same with... Oh, we're not going to do this one. This is the trim on the column. I forgot about that. This is the trim I wanted. It's basically just the kind of like wood sort of general texture. Don't know how much use it's going to get in the real world, but let's have that as well. And got this one. This one took ages to make. I'm just about to destroy it. Might come back to that later and just pixel some of that detail back in. Same with the wallpaper. It should be half the resolution it is. One of the really big advantages with doing this is that it means that the kind of like the amount of effort required to make future textures will be lowered, as we'll have much smaller areas to fill. Let's keep going here. It's actually made much less difference to the kind of like quality of the final product than I really expected. Okay, right. That's looking a bit more like it. Let's go back into the panel and let's just pixel some of the detail back in. So we've lost some of the kind of definition on this. We want it in that nice shading mode if we can have it. There it is. And we're just going to basically like pixel this back in slightly. Never used to use this shading feature and it's so nice. Just being able to just kind of draw on it as if it's painting normally. And it's the same here, I think. Hang on. It's 6 wide, so we should have 3 pixels on each side. So there we go. Shade it in down here a bit. We have now lost like the row of pixels between that wouldn't be shaded, but that's not such a big deal. We'll get by. And maybe darken it slightly. I think that's maybe a little bit too bright, especially down the edges. Now we've got this really dark pixel here. That doesn't look great. Let's even that out a bit. Okay, is there anything else about this I'd like to change? Got a couple of weird dark pixels there, but I think it looks okay. Just have a look at it in the render viewport, and looks pretty good, looks pretty good. The UVs on this are kind of jank, but that's fine. We're also going to do the same on this column. Again, I spent ages making this column. I've just woken up, had an epiphany. This column should really be worse. Yeah, it's half the resolution of this. Oh, I forgot this was a weird resolution. Maybe I should scale it to something more rational, like 16 by 16. I might come back to that later on and fix it. That trim can stay as it is. And I've got this column here. Let's scale this down to half. Oh, that really did not do it justice, did it? Oh, that's kind of wrecked it. We'll fix it. Actually, it doesn't look too bad in the scene. I'm still going to fix up this kind of like hard edge around here, but that actually looks okay. Yeah, the important thing is it looks cohesive. People don't tend to like inspect it, you know, except like weirdos on YouTube. People don't really tend to inspect individual textures. They tend to just look at the whole scene and go, well, does the whole scene look as I'd expect? So I'm just going to refer back to the reference here. Yes, it's actually kind of like you actually see it. Oh, hang on, it hasn't switched to GIMP. It's actually kind of like a raised lip, so it should kind of have a bit of a highlight on it and then a shadow around the edge. That might be a bit difficult to replicate with this lower texel count, but we'll have a go. Shadow's there. And I had that terrible idea I was going to make like the use like two different shades. I've now got to go over and redo all the ones that end up in the other sort of colour. Okay, there we go. That's looking a bit better. Not sure on that. Might be a bit too bright. We'll see. Okay, so let's check everything else. How's the trim look? The trim is a bit too... it's a bit too high res now. I might just make it bigger rather than retexturing it. I'll pull this up a bit like that. That looks more natural. Although I might scale it down a bit on the x-axis. Is it this one or is it this one? Yeah, scale it down a bit. Let's halve its width and then reload it. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Looks pretty natural. We have literally decimated it. So I'm just going to swap back over to here. I'm just going to commit that as is because it's just kind of like here. It's a single block of work what we just did. So yeah, that looks a bit more. So let me just pull this out full size. That looks a bit more natural in Engine now. That's got a bit more sort of consistency and of text resolution, not just with itself, but with what you kind of expect from this kind of era of game. Okay, so next up, we want to do the what I've come to call. Let's bring it back up. You might be able to see it from here. I call this the salami carpet. It kind of looks like when you get like a pack of salami, it's got all like the slices laid on top of one another. It's just this very repetitive red circular texture. It actually looks like they have two different kinds of carpets. They've got this bigger one here, which is kind of like more sort of... this one kind of looks like a margarita pizza. Yeah, it's got that kind of like sort of more sort of flat red and yellowish orange texture, whereas this one's slightly... You put the two together, you got like a nice pepperoni pizza. So this is going to be a bit bigger, but I'm thinking we can probably get away with tiling it, right? And using kind of like mirror tiling. So I guess I'll start off here. Floors. Let's make a folder in here for carpets. Okay, now we need to make some colors that kind of match up with this. So I think that is a slightly desaturated, very slightly orangey red. So let's just double check that. It should be, let me get the hue saturation value up. And, oh, you guys can't actually see the color picker window. You have to take my word for it. Yeah, it's more red than I thought it was. So it's going to be kind of that. Kind of there, and kind of there. Oh, I had palette lock on, so none of that did anything. Why is palette lock a thing? I've never understood. That's just AB. Bit more saturation, maybe. That looks about right. One of the other things you got to keep in mind is that this is in a scene with lighting on it. So we want the the kind of base color we're going to be applying lighting to be a bit more vibrant. Not too much, but a bit more. Let's just replicate this all the way along, and then do our usual party trick of just scrolling through and darkening it as we go. Now, I don't actually think we don't need to go all the way down to black with this one. If anything, it's better if we don't. Normally, I'd try and aim to get like the darkest color to be black, but in this case, there's not going to be any black on this. It's not like say this. Damn it! I need to get the auto switch working. There's not going to be any black on this. Whereas there's on something like the floor tiles. Okay, right. I'm just going to see if I get that working, because that really should be working. There we go. Right. Now this section might be a bit bigger than the others just because it occupies like multiple floor tiles. Like that's like it's occupying like 2 by 2, and you gotta remember this is going to be going into a skateboarding gaming that everything is slightly larger than it would be in the original. So let's go for a canvas size of, let's call it 32 by 32. And I think we're going to need kind of like 3 distinct colors here. We're going to need like the red. It's kind of like a slightly, maybe we can just get away with shadow actually for this. But then you've also got this kind of, I guess to describe it's kind of like a beigey color. So we're going to need one of those as well. That's usually kind of like a yellowish, desaturated white, kind of. And again, just provisionally, we're just going to go through the ramp here. I'm just going to get ourselves a nice run of colors. Okay, so structurally, so we've got the central kind of like sort of flower ring thing, I guess is how to describe it. And we're going to draw that kind of in this corner. I'd say that takes up somewhere between 1/3 and 1/4 of it. So let's go with something like that. And then you got this kind of pattern that sort of, it's almost kind of like it's arcing around it, sort of. So it kind of does that. And then it kind of splits into 2. You've got kind of like a sort of like a pattern part there and a kind of more solid part along there. And this of course looks rubbish. I'm aware it looks rubbish. We'll come back and we'll fix this later on. So we've got this. Let's just replicate this way. And we're going to double it in size. And then we're going to add a material. I'm so glad I added that feature. That feature is so nice. It means I can just grab a lot of texture here, and then it should. Why is all this? Oh, it's grey X. I've got the search on. It just added a material we can just use directly inside Blender without any fuss. So next up, we just want to switch this over to the correct thing. Rotate it. And there we go. Now we're going to want a couple more copies of this. There we go. Oh no, what have I done? What was that? Why did it do that? That was a bit jump scary, wasn't it? Almost. Just need to swap them around. And again, I guess. Wait, what? How have I messed it up again? What? There we go. That one's now right. Oh no, how many, How many attempts does it take to do a basic rotation of a texture? There we go. So yeah, I'm just going to repeat this as well, just to get an idea of how it kind of looks when it's repeated. This, of course, isn't the final proportions of the room. It's going to be way bigger than this, just so we've got room for all of our, well, for skateboarding antics, ramps and things like that. So, let's have another look at this. So this looks kind of like it. Let's see if we can have a better view on this tool. And these are all quite low. I mean, unsurprisingly, for a PlayStation 1 game with a fixed resolution of 320 by 240, these are all pretty low res. But I guess it kind of looks like it's a split. It kind of has like a an inverse bit. So let's get rid of this. Yeah, well, the proportions about right. It's slightly too big. We'll work on it though. So it kind of does that. And then it kind of does that. And then it kind of does that. And it gets way, way, way thinner as it gets to there. That might look a bit weird. Actually, no, I think that's starting to look about right. Yeah, that actually looks about right. That's kind of weird. That was just... I thought that was going to look way worse than that. Let's just adjust these kind of like shapes a bit. Round it off slightly. And also scale it down just a touch. I feel like it's slightly too big. Scaling pixel art never ends well, so we've ended up with like a big sort of mush. We can fix it though. Hey, that's looking okay. That's looking okay. And so it's even about the right size. There's a bit of kind of like shadow around the sort of flower thing, so that'll probably help it make it look a bit bigger than it is. How does that look? Yeah, that's looking pretty good. Okay, next up, the outside bit, because I'm not quite sure that's right. Yeah, let's draw these in a pixel or two. And what else are we going to be doing with this? The curve could maybe do being a bit more gentle. So kind of like that. It's kind of hard to see what's going on there, but it kind of looks like there's some kind of like, almost kind of like a woven pattern to it, but it's kind of hard to really see. So I'm going to guess it's just something kind of like this. Probably. Something like that. Okay. I think that's the... Oh, there might be a bit more of a pattern here, but again, I think that's done largely with shadow. So, next up we need to really start kind of texturing into this a bit. Now, unfortunately, I don't think Aseprite really has like a shading mode that works well with, if you've got like, say, multiple sort of runs here. So I'm just going to have to, well, run over it multiple times. So yeah, I need to really shade around the inside of that. So let's go to the right window. There we go. Let's increase the rate a lot. And kind of shade around there. I need to be careful with this because it's going to mirror the one way. Where else have they got shading? They're kind of like patches a bit here to kind of like hint at sort of details, I guess. Yeah, I don't think that's meant to be dirt. I think that's meant to be some kind of pattern or something. Oh, we might actually want to leave a row of pixels for like the edge. Looks like they've detailed it a bit there. This is going to look pretty bad, but we'll sort it out. I guess they're kind of like trying to hint at like having a bit of relief or being like slightly raised or something with these kind of like colors. Either that or they just took a picture. It's kind of hard to really say. Back in the day, they used to, you know, work from kind of like photos and then photo manipulate them to look exactly as they wanted. So it's kind of hard to say. It might be, you know, something real kind of poking through the surface, or it might be them just making something up. Or it might be that they found a copy that actually looks exactly like this. Who can really say? Wow, that looks terrible. All right, okay, we've got a lot of tweaks to make. So I feel like the part of the problem is this color, where it gets darker, it should probably not be going quite so dark. And because we're going to be doing lighting here with, you know, this is largely a flat object. It doesn't really have much in the way of actual lighting. And I'm thinking it should probably actually be instead skewing kind of purplish. As it gets, you know, quote unquote darker. And then we're going to desaturate it a bit. This is going to look really weird, but you know, let me cook, let me cook. Let me cook, he says, in increasingly worried tones. How's that look in context? Boy, that hasn't improved at all, has it? Okay, maybe I need to start being a bit more deliberate where I'm placing things. Let's add a bit of a blur filter. Nothing too extreme, but just to kind of soften out kind of like the pixel noise a bit. Most of the time, when they kind of have a texture like this in a real game, they'll be using a palletized mode, right, on the actual console hardware. And most palletization algorithms at the time were pretty simple, and they pretty much just, you know, found like the most common colors and then just crunched the palette down into the nearest ones. Hey, that's starting to look a bit more intentional, just like that. And the kind of like the blur effect kind of emulates that slightly. I don't know if it was its original intent in this, you know, to help you emulate PlayStation 1 textures, but it certainly works for it. Okay, I'm gonna have to give this a bit more of a tweak. That kind of purple is maybe a little bit too much. Things about color, it's all relative, right? Something might look purple, but it's just looking purple in comparison to whatever happens to be around it. Okay, that's looking a lot better. So now we're going to try and pixel in some of this sort of detail here. It's kind of like, so I don't know, kind of like weave or whatever it is. So we're looking here, and this should be, do we have it in the shading mode? Shading. So I'm just going to start hiding the kind of inner part of it, kind of turning it into that kind of like mushroom or jellyfish shape you can see in the original artwork. And then there's a patch down here which is nearly ripe. I feel like it needs to kind of have like a bit more, sort of like a bow on it, kind of like that, I think. We also soften out some of like the weird, like odd kind of like weirdly over bright pixels and stuff while we're doing this. Might have gone a bit far there. Let's just back that off a bit. Blur tool might help with that. Let's just lighten it all up by a single pixel. Or shade, sorry. How's that looking? Oh, I keep going to the wrong thing. How's that looking, engine? Okay, it's looking a bit better. Let's do a bit more patterning and detail kind of here, you know? Just something to kind of not just noise like we had before, but something just to kind of fill this kind of weird void. So it's kind of there, which is kind of there. Okay. So we can grab all, oops, we can grab all these colors and then kind of shade something in. So what we're going to go for, what we're going to go for here. Now we are going to be making stuff up because there's no way we can see. Oh, actually, that's a really good angle. You can see there's all kind of like all sorts of complex patterns there. So let's just kind of hint at those a bit. It's kind of hard to see what they are, but like we'll just hint at them slightly, just like this. Yeah, it looks better. Hey, how's it going? How's it going, mate? How's that look? Thanks. Yeah, I'm trying to almost kind of do like a PlayStation 1 style-ish. So it's almost kind of like we're taking kind of like the Spencer Mansion from Resident Evil 1 and kind of trying to reinterpret it as a Tony Hawk's Pro Skater map, sort of. So obviously not using pre-rendered backgrounds, using like textures and also messing with the scale just so you've got like actual space to move around. So one of the things we need to check is how this looks when you apply the vertex paint to it, because that's how we're going to be doing our lighting. So I'm just going to select all these. Yeah, it seems like everyone's a game dev these days. Sounds cool though. So you say like a Game Boy and a SNES style, because I mean, obviously they're both kind of like pixel art, but I mean, I guess we're talking more like sort of Game Boy Color or Game Boy Advance than original Game Boy. Yeah, sure. I'd be interested in seeing stuff. Hey, look at the lighting really helps that quite a lot. I've done a few experiments kind of like a 3D Game Boy style, where it's always kind of like, you know, textures as though it's, you know, kind of like sort of like greenish, yellowish sort of palette. I thought it actually looked pretty good, but I got mixed reactions from people who actually tried it. Cheers. I'll check that off stream, just because I haven't got a huge amount of time, but like I will check that off stream. Thanks for putting it up, and if it, I'll probably share it on Twitter if it's pretty cool. Okay. So that's looking pretty good. What are we doing next? One of the things I'm not quite sure on yet is what I'm going to do with the staircase, because you can't skateboard up staircases, and I had a suggestion of what if this had kind of collapsed a bit and gave you a ramp up. I might end up doing that. I guess I should probably make these next, these lights on the wall. I don't know if we have a great view of them at any point, because they tend to be, well, they're along the back wall, and the player can get there, but there are no camera angles really up close. You got this one down here, but it's kind of like, you know, under the stairs, there's no lights, and yet somehow there's still light in here. So I guess we just wing it. So it kind of looks like they've got kind of like a bulbous shape to them. And then there's a couple of, well, it's kind of like a sort of like a forked kind of stand for them. I think, yeah, they're very different to the lights in the other rooms. We've got a better view of the props in this room, but like they're different props. So I guess we make it up. So I was originally thinking with these, I was going to use like billboards for them, you know, like sprites just positioned in 3D space. But I'm not so sure that's actually really going to work. Well, actually it would work, but like it's kind of a pain to do them in Blender, because Blender doesn't really have a billboard sprite kind of primitive that works well. So I need to think about that. Oh, actually, one tweet, I'm just going to make this carpet before I say I'm done with it. I'm just going to pull it in 1 pixel, and then I am going to add a kind of like a shaded edge along here, just to kind of give the impression of it kind of like having like an actual physical real edge, even though it's, you know, obviously a 2D texture. Shading mode. Maybe I have to go in a bit harder than that. Let's keep going. Let's keep digging. There we go, that helps a lot. Just makes it feel a bit more sort of bedded into the scene. Okay. All right, next thing is, yeah, those lights. So if I'm going to model them, they're going to be really low polygon. There was a trick I remember seeing in Tomb Raider. I seem to remember the butler did this. Yeah, he had kind of like sort of. Oh god, I need to be careful what I'm googling here. Like anything with Tomb Raider and Lara Croft involved, it's gonna have some creepy stuff in it. Yeah, they literally just had like two pictures of a teapot, and they kind of like just cut them through one another, which is always a bit kind of funny. But like the low resolutions we're talking, it kind of works. So I might be able to do something similar with these lights. So let's have a look at this here. How big will this be roughly? That's actually kind of funny, but like this screenshot and this scene have actually ended up roughly identical in sort of textile density on this back wall. So if I go for roughly 7, 8-ish pixels high. Let's see here. Oops, not floors. It's not floor, it's a light. Lights. And we're going to have... What would you call these? I guess just wall. And then we have a new texture in here for the bulb. Get rid of all those. And one of the really nice things about working with a custom engine is being able to go, things like non-Power 2 textures, it's just, we can do what we like. We don't care about what the, what any kind of established norms have to say on the matter. We can do what we like. Copy this down. Maybe we kind of roll this more kind of like blue as it gets to the edges. And we're going to go roll through a desaturated zone to get between them. And then we're going to kind of cut our sort of rough bulb shape out. I might increase this slightly. I don't want to make it too high res because it'll look out of place in the scene. Something like that. No, it needs to be shorter than that. And we're just going to have like a nice sort of right at the center and then kind of just rolling off towards the edges. And then just trim it down. All right, let's now stick that in the scene. Again, we're not being too careful or cautious with what we're modeling here. We're just basically just going to just stick something in the scene. We'll figure it out later. So yeah, we're going to divide this up into models later on so we can place them more kind of carefully. And let's add a new material. So now we should have a bulb. We can now assign it to the surface. Yeah, so another thing to kind of keep in mind here. Blender doesn't do so well with transparent TGAs. There's a bit of disagreement over whose bug it really is, but it's definitely someone's bug. There is a workaround for this. I can temporarily export it as PNG just to get an idea of how it looks. I want to keep it as TGA though, just because that's what the engine supports. So grab this, rotate it 90 degrees around there, and it won't look great, but it should look okay. Yeah, I'm just going to temporarily export this as a PNG, and I'll then swap this out. I think I do it here. Yeah, there it is. But they also need to go back into the shader editor. Let's just open another thing over here. Whoa, it's getting a bit crazy in here. And do we have a bulb PNG in here? No, we don't for some reason. Huh? It didn't reload the image. What? Oh, hang on. I know what the issue is. Right, this is another bug with our I'm just going to the engine itself. Okay, to do connect alpha. Problem is that we're not connecting the alpha here to the material output. So how do we do that? How do we do that? Do we have? So we've got like shaders. I know we've got holdouts, but I don't think that's what we necessarily want. Holdout basically makes a hole in something, right? And transparent. Maybe. Maybe. Like, what happens if we do that? Oh, we didn't want that. No, we didn't want that. Okay, put a holdout in. It should just... Oh, that's not what I expected to happen at all. It's still using the depth buffer. That's kind of weird. Okay. There's something down here. Maybe I have to do blend mode, alpha clip. No, that's still not right. Let's just put our transparent back on and run it into there. So, okay, transparency is the wrong way round now. That's something, I guess. How do I actually use this kind of usefully, you know? Oh, I guess he's a mixed shader, maybe? I don't think that's... No, that's not right. Oh, no. Is it like a multiply shader? Is that a thing? There's an add shader, but I don't really want to add them together. I want to kind of multiply them. I have no idea. This is kind of annoying. I was hoping I'd just be able to drop this in at work. Hang on 1 second. Shader nodes cutout transparency. Blender. Here we go. Here, give me the codes. Oh, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. Right, so we make our completely transparent texture, which is going to be shader, transparent. Yeah, there's no color input to that. And then we're doing a mix. And then we're using the alpha to mix between transparent and opaque. That's the wrong way around. I just need to swap the inputs though. I need to invert the polarity. There we go. That wasn't contrived and difficult, was it? Does the TGA still work? Nope. Right, so we need to do a few things to make this really kind of work and pop. So number one is I think it needs a bit of a shadow behind it. Now we could use the vertex paint for that. The only problem with that is it's going to be kind of low resolution. But I think we probably use a mix of things. So we're probably, we're probably like, add like a general shadow behind it, kind of like this. And we might also have kind of like a textured shadow behind it, just kind of like really kind of make it pop a bit more. Okay, that definitely needs some work though. That definitely needs kind of like thinking and kind of like, sorting out a bit more. And we're also going to have the bit that kind of like sits underneath it, this kind of sort of bracket thing. So I'm just going to make that now. We're going to call this holder. Let's call it holder. And we're going to go for kind of like a golden color, which is kind of like a sort of like a rich orange, not too bright. Metals tend to be really complex in terms of like color because they change not just in brightness, but also tend to change in like saturation and hue slightly. So I'm going to go for more saturated as it gets darker. And I'm going to go for more kind of like a yellowish color when it's bright, to a steadily more kind of like reddish as it gets darker. And of course we need to make it darker as well. That looks absolutely terrible. Might have gone a bit too hard on desaturating. Looks a bit more like it. And again, this needs to be very yellow. Okay, how big are we looking at here? Because looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Roughly 7 pixels across, roughly. And, oops, I didn't want to delete the color, I wanted to delete the pixels. We're going to have a rough kind of, let's have another look. It's kind of like a, sort of like this. We're going to support this with a bit of geometry. We're going to try and keep the geometry very minimal on this. Again, not because we have to, but just because it helps with the style. And we're going to try and hint at the actual, shape of this object using the lighting. Okay, let's try that in Engine. As you can see, that should be a W. Let's use the add material thing again. It has to be a TGA to import it, but then we can easily swap it over. So we're going to grab one of these planes, move it to the middle roughly. It doesn't need to be exact, as again, this is kind of just like the sort of prototype stage, but also it doesn't really matter because the precision of the kind of render is so low, we won't be able to tell anyway. Okay, should be able to do that. I'm just going to rotate it back slightly against the wall a bit. Slightly narrow so it doesn't poke with the cards. And hey, that actually doesn't look terrible. I'm shocked. That looks a lot better than I was expecting. I'm just going to trim it down slightly so it kind of looks like it's sort of leading into it. Where's our holder? There it is. Swap it out for the PNG so we can see how it... Oh! Didn't mean to do that. And again, we need to replicate that thing we did earlier where we set up the... You can see why I have that plugin to do the material setup, given there's actually multiple steps here. So it's a transparent, and then we need a mix. Right, mix, there you are. And then we need the alpha. In theory, I should be multiplying it with the color attributes alpha. In theory, but we don't currently have any color attribute alpha. That hasn't worked. Why? Why hasn't that worked? I've done something stupid, haven't I? This definitely has alpha, doesn't it? Yeah, it does. Oh, wait, no, it doesn't. Oh, it does. I don't know what I'm talking about. Let's see here. Taking the alpha, we're using it to mix between the emission and transparent. Just the transparent. Oh, hang on. I know the other thing I have to do. I have to enable clip down here, and there we go. So that looks okay. Let's try moving it up a bit and see if it looks a bit better with a bit more kind of like a sort of wall shadow behind it. Oops. I kind of left the other cards behind. I kind of gave the lamp earrings. That was kind of weird. Okay, that looks okay, but it needs a bit more of kind of like, just a bit more sort of shadow on the wall just to help kind of help it pop a bit. So let's have a look in here. Yeah, you can't see much, but like there is a bit of kind of like, it might well have been ray traced. Who knows? Let's follow it up with, let's make a kind of like a shadow texture. This is going to be really, really simple by comparison. And I need to remember to re-export these as TGA once I've exported them as PNG. So this is going to be a bit bigger and a bit wider. So it's going to be like 9 pixels by maybe 8. Oh, that's some kind of monster. And I'm just going to make this like a really extreme stark shadow at first, and then kind of adjust it back to sanity later on. So it's going to be it's going to follow the same rough shape, but nothing too close, I don't think. And we're going to have a slightly less, sort of bright version of that, but less opaque version of it. And I'm just going to like run down a few levels of steadily decreasing opacity to kind of get our sort of nice fall off. And as it gets further away, you're going to get that effect where kind of like a shadow gets a bit sort of softer, loses definition with distance. So we're going to use those, it's getting more round as it goes down. Okay, let's get that into engine now. Well, not into engine, but into editor. And we just need to assign that. And then we need to go do all the material setup again. Hopefully this time we've got a bit of a, we've got a memory of how we need to do this. Something I need to think about actually is you can't quite see, it's kind of behind me, but there's a setting in here for the transparency type, and something that's going to be a bit complex I haven't really accounted for just yet is some objects have like a blend transparency and some have a cutout transparency. Most things have a cutout transparency in my experience, but to get like the best kind of results, you have to do blend transparency in a separate pass after opaque and cutout transparency objects. Otherwise, because like they don't, things like depth buffer don't work super great otherwise. And at the moment, the kind of tooling I've written doesn't really have a great way of sort of combining the two. I am pretty tempted to see if I can go with a sort of like a stipple approach, because that would actually fix the depth buffer issue entirely. Okay, so that's completely black at the minute. That's kind of what we expect. So next up we need to add it's kind of a little bit annoying you have to do this for transparency to just work. I can kind of see why, but it's a bit weird. Okay, that's sorted. Now we need to swap this over to shadow PNG, and there it is. There it is. Let's position it and scale it to roughly match the pixel size of the background. And that helps a bit. Let's move it down slightly. Maybe scale it down just a touch. In fact, let's scale the whole light up slightly. Oh, that looks really weird actually, kind of like off the wall like that. That kind of looks okay. That kind of gives you a bit of like the 3D impression with the you know, like the separate kind of like frame and shadow layers. But I don't think that looks unreasonable for something from a PlayStation 1 game. I'm going to make the shadow bigger though. I'm thinking like, let's see here. Yeah, let's make it like a lot. Oh, whoa. We've like exposed some monsters living outside of the normal texture space. Let's give it a good cleanup. Oh, you know what I should be using? That symmetry mode I always talk about using and never do. So let's go around there, around that. Nice and round shadows. Oops. Let's have a look at how that looks in Engine. Okay, that looks okay, but we need to sort this out. This should not be completely black. That should be more like that. And I feel like we could do with a few more levels of shadow, maybe. Just kind of like really make it sort of pop a bit. So let's think about this as a 3D object. Which parts of it, yeah. Let's think about this as an actual 3D object. So these are going to be kind of like poking out of the wall a bit, right? Meaning that the shadows are actually going to kind of reflect that. So it should, in fact, have kind of like that kind of a shadow. Maybe less exaggerated than that, but it should kind of be shaped like that. And the kind of like denser parts of the shadow should kind of follow that. Again, that's a little too exaggerated, but I think we're on the right track. We should still meet in the middle. I guess it is nice being able to make textures that are an odd number of pixels across. It really does make things a lot easier. Let's crop it to there. Scale it down just a touch. And let's add a few more layers of shadow, because again, I feel like I've not done enough here. Okay, next up we need to kind of like really make this kind of a bit, we need to start grunging this up a bit, as a shadow would never be quite that clean, but that starts to look okay. One of the things that's tricky is that you naturally want to shade behind objects, but of course these are light emitting objects and they shouldn't be casting a shadow really. In fact, there probably shouldn't be any shadow at all up in the upper parts of this. There we go, that looks pretty nice. So again, let's check how that looks when we actually kind of like render it at our sort of native resolution. Set the active objects as camera. And put the 3D cursor back on. How's it look? You know, that looks pretty good. That looks roughly what I'd expect it to look like in a real PlayStation 1 game. So I'm pretty happy with that. Yeah. I'm actually just going to have a quick experiment with the kind of like vertex paint here and see, you know, got a few minutes here. Let's see how it kind of looks when we try painting it the other way around. 'Cause at the moment I put a bit of shadow under it just to kind of like kind of account for the fact that there's sorry, to account for the fact that the frame should be casting shadow, but of course the light itself would be emitting light, not casting it. So what color are these lights? Because they look like they're kind of like yellowish and there's just a blue ambient light coming from like somewhere. So let's go for a slight yellowish, full brightness, go. And let's increase the strength. Let's actually go for kind of like a more kind of like a pure white for the kind of center. And then go for more kind of like a yellowish sort of tone in the kind of surroundings. And then I'm just gonna select all these as well, so we can get like a rough idea of how like the fall off actually kind of looks. We will have to manually paint all these lights, but it's kind of how things would have been done back in the day. So it kind of gives you that kind of authentic look, even if it is a bit more work. And then we're going to then go for a kind of like a more sort of like slightly bluish, sort of neutralish color on the outside. And then we're going to go even darker, even more blue. And that's starting to give us that kind of spooky-ish look. It's going to slightly lighter at the kind of like here. It's going to be like a pool of light down here. Maybe not that light. Now we do have a bit of a problem here in that this light is just basically being lost against the backdrop. Whereas that wasn't really so much of a thing here. Now, I think it was actually kind of more of a bug than anything that the, well, kind of like an art bug, not like a code bug. But like, I'm pretty sure in the case of this, right, this surface isn't actually emitting light, and they've actually got kind of like a light source kind of like here-ish, which is why you've got like the shadow of the, it's almost kind of like the real light is kind of here and it's projecting onto the wall. But yeah, so we're not going to replicate that bug, but like this could definitely deal with like being a bit more contrasty. So if I open the bulb and then I'm going to add a bit more contrast to this. Oops, I've gone the wrong way. Oh, I keep pressing the wrong button. Why am I doing that? Probably because I'm trying to do things in a hurry. Let's see how that looks. Let's just uncrunch all this UI. It's getting very crunchy down here. Yeah, I don't really like that. I preferred it before. Yeah. Maybe I do just need a little touch of shadow on the wall behind it. I'm also going to... the thing is, I was kind of tuning the shadow, the kind of density of it, while I had the vertex color on. So I kind of undercooked it. Let's swap to the shadow. I think it's the shadow that needs adjusting more than anything. Yeah, let's extend the shadow up a bit. Let's extend to say 16 pixels tall. Get rid of all the stuff that just popped in from the Nether Realm. And just add a little bit of shadow here just to kind of make it look like this, you know, kind of something behind the bulb. Just kind of make the bulb contrast the background a bit. Will look a bit strange, but we'll extend this up. That actually looks pretty good. I'm actually just going to extend this shadow out just a touch. Give it a bit of, a little bit of extra underneath. And I'm going to increase the shadow kind of density just a touch. That looks pretty good. I'm actually going to slim down the bottom half of the shadows. I feel that's gone a bit too far. Maybe we add an extra tone kind of here. Use that to sort of soften the edge a little bit. Oh, it's looking closer. I always find these kind of things hard to do. I mean, I once tried making a lens flare. That took me absolutely hours. I'm not even kidding, to make a lens flare. Just to get like the levels just right, where it kind of had punch but didn't have like any obvious banding or anything. That took me actually hours. Okay, that looks pretty good. Is there any more adjustments we can make to it? Maybe move it up very slightly. Hey, that's looking pretty good. Yeah. That is in fact looking excellent. Again, you look at it up close, it looks pretty weird. But looks pretty good from most other angles. I'm just going to extend this up slightly and this down here. Yep, I'm happy with that. That'll do it for today. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. We'll pick this back up tomorrow, and not quite sure what we're going to do tomorrow yet on this. We're going to do something, obviously. I guess we might just build up more geometry to see how it fits together and start thinking about that kind of ramp. Or maybe we might do some doors or something. See you then.